On today's show, it is part 2 with myself and David Lee talking about the Hawks' young players and much more, and all of that is on the way.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1779 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Sunday evening into Monday, and this is part 2 of 2 with myself and David Lee. So stop right now. If you listen to this podcast first, you are in the wrong place. So part 1 is the place to begin this conversation. It is a free-flowing conversation, about an hour or so, with myself and David talking all things about the Hawks young guys and more. But part 1 is available in this same podcast feed right now. Listen to that one first, and then this is going to be part 2. Go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. Make it your first listen each and every day here at Locked On Hawks. Check us out on Apple, on Spotify, on YouTube, etc. And no more delay. Here we go with part 2, myself and David. Yeah, I do think the Hawks really like Kobe still. And I think that, there's always the new car off the lot thing. When you draft a guy, he kind of doesn't play a lot as a rookie. And then it's like nationally in particular, it's like, all right, what's going on with that guy? And people, my friends around the league are like, what's going on with Kobe? I'm like, nothing. He's fine. Like he got hurt last year. He didn't play that much, but Quinn loves him. Organizationally, they like him a lot. Yeah. And, missing Summer League was brutal for those of us that had to watch Summer League, but Summer League games are not game. It matters to us and it matters to these guys. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but like there is so much more development that happens away from the court in the summer than Summer League games, which is all we get to see, which I always stress. And I'll say it again now. So he got to play from the time the season ended until whatever he got hurt, which was like July 5th or whatever it was. Before. So he had like 2.5 months of summer, like development. They were practicing all those things. And that's like most guys are not like just chilling on the beach. Like they might take a few weeks off after the season, but they're getting back in there playing basketball. They're getting in shape, all that stuff. And Kobe's no exception to that. But yeah, I have said, and I would still say now as we're talking in early August, like if they were to bring in like what I would call a boring third backup point guard, I wouldn't mind that. The flirtation with Tyus Jones that I reported on, like that was like a logical thing. It wasn't like that was people were like, "Hey, that's an indictment of Kobe." I'm like, no, it's not. It's that this guy was available for like a huge discount in late July, and they made a call. That's all that is. Same thing was like they called Colin Gillespie. It's like that was to back up Kobe, not to replace Kobe.
So would you go after Markelle Fultz?
I mean, that was a weird one because of what he can and can't do. Like I feel like Markelle Fultz is like. I'm not saying he's the same guy as someone like that, but I feel like he overlaps more with Dyson and Kobe than like the guy I'm thinking of in my head. Like Tyus Jones is like the best version of this player, but like the caretaker, run your offense, get you into sets kind of guy. Whereas Fultz is like definitely still a combo guard. Like obviously he needs the ball in his hands a lot because he still can't shoot. Man, that's a sidebar. Whatever happened to Markelle Fultz, his jump shot will be studied forever. Because people have forgotten this because it never happened in the NBA. Like that was not a bad draft pick. Like it just didn't. It just forgot how to shoot. Anyway, no. So if they called Markelle Fultz and like right now offered him $5 million, like sure. What? It's the same principle as Tyus Jones of like you're just trying to take advantage of a guy, not what I mean, not take advantage of, but like buy low on a player who's available for really cheaper than he should be. He just isn't quite as clean of a fit because I think that he is just very duplicative of even Dyson, but especially of Kobe. I don't know. I wouldn't mind it if they, if that news broke on Tuesday that the Hawks, or if I heard on Tuesday the Hawks called Markelle Fultz, I'm like, okay, makes sense. Like, because he's not going to get a lot of money now. Unfortunately for him, if you're still a free agent in August, you're probably signing for the minimum. You know what I mean? Like maybe not definitely, but probably like Tyus Jones, for instance. I don't know. I'm looking forward to watching Kobe, and I'm glad you mentioned the finishing numbers because that got talked about a lot around the draft. I know I talked about it a lot, but because last year it wasn't on full display in NBA games. It was there in the G League if people cared to watch the G League. But he is a really good finisher, and you wouldn't notice that. Like maybe you wouldn't assume that by his physicality. Because he's so skinny, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of the same thing you mentioned earlier about Dyson, and we won't go back to that, but Dyson is really like thin. I think he's like listed at like 6'8", 200 pounds, but he is incredibly strong, which you mentioned, and people don't like until you watch him like, hold up defensively, you would be surprised, but he is really strong. Kobe's not like that kind of strong yet, but he will take contact. He's got good balance. Like he's not going to overwhelm you physically, but he's crafty in a good way. Like not in a way where like some guys are forced to be crafty because they can't get to their spots. Kobe can get there and also add the craft on top of it.
Yeah, there was one. I can't remember what finish. It was one G League game I was watching. He had a beautiful scoop layup over a shot blocker. He has like I think guys who can get a layup like with the ball below their hip because of the angles that they know around the back. Like he's really gifted as a finisher, especially going left. Of course, he is left-handed. I think it will translate eventually. I love his pace of the game. I love the way he can operate out of pick and roll. He's very methodical. I think he has a lot of indicators that he can eventually like sort of match his college production. Like I don't think he was anything crazy in terms of like, super like high usage in college. And that's why I wanted him on the Hawks. I thought he could replicate what he did at Michigan. And to some extent he kind of did. Again, I think he has a plus wingspan. Like you said, he always like a good vibes guy too. I think that's important as well.
Oh yeah.
We just lost the captain of the vibes in Bruno Fernando. So like you need guys who are going to be able to, continually be positive. And again, like I think in terms of culture, he had real shot blocking skills too. I think like someone like a Derek White or a Josh Hart, these are the type of guys that have not been a Hawks since, like you said, top of Sevolosha maybe. So like guys who are like high energy, hustle, committed on the defensive end, will do all the little things. And Kobe's just another one of them. And it's like now we have, I would say 3 with Vit Krejci and Dyson Daniels as well. So like I'm so excited.
Another great vibes guy, Vit. Vit's playing now, so people kind of forgot, but like Vit was like probably best known for his like towel celebrations until he started playing this last year. And great vibes guy. Honestly, they have a lot of great vibes guys on this team now. You don't want to go crazy with it, but it's true. I mean, R.I.P. to Bruno, who I will always be rooting for. I hope Bruno was already in Toronto. He latched on there. I'm glad for that. Hope he makes the team. But they do have some good vibes guys. We talked around. I know I mentioned him earlier, but I do want to ask about Risacher because obviously that's a big story. And he fits in really well, which is, it's so weird to talk about that number 1 overall pick fitting in, but it is true. Like that, that's kind of why I would say that's why. That's part of why they like him so much. And they'll tell you that when I talk to people around the Hawks, a lot of it is like this kid kind of doesn't know how good he is in some ways, which is good. In some way, like he's very humble and not in a fake way. I think he's actually he keeps saying when he's asked by people like me and Lauren and like, I just want to do whatever the team needs. And he's like, not just saying that. Some guys are just saying that because they're supposed to, which I understand. And that's the right thing to say, but he actually means it and plays that way. But I guess I'll do the same thing to you that I did with the DeJounte trade. What did you make of Risacher leading up? Because there was this whole debate. I won't make you relive the whole Risacher, Sarr, Klingon, everybody debate, but like once it became real, like, hey, this is probably going to be Risacher, which like the last week or so, it was like, it's probably going to be Risacher, probably. And then it became him. How's that journey for you, Ben? Taking him, and then obviously some of the got cut short, but he did play in Vegas, and the first game was, I thought, pretty good. But anyway, what'd you make of that?
I mean, I was in full on denial up until the pick was made. I didn't want to believe it. I thought Javoni was being a mouthpiece. I didn't know what benefit he had.
He is very high. He is very high on him. To be fair to everybody, he's the captain of Risacher Island. Is John Javoni from ESPN.
It felt like it was so over exaggerated that I was like, "There's no way." I thought first off, the Hawks were in a unique position, and this draft is in a unique position. They were. I will stand on the fact this is not a bad draft. We'll look back in a year. We'll be like, okay, well, I can see why this wasn't as bad as we thought it was. And I think Risacher will kind of encapsulate that with the way that I think he'll impact the Hawks, even from day one. But yeah, it was a full journey of grief. Like, honestly, like I put that in my YouTube video. Like I was like, man, like it was just hard to believe because I had, like, I even with my initial video where I evaluated all the prospects, I was like, I'd be very mad at this pick, but I would understand the vision because length and shooting and IQ and plus defender, that's like kind of like everything with Risacher.
That's what they think. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's inherently so valuable in the NBA. I mean, he's 6'9", a legitimate shooter, incredibly intelligent, makes great plays. And especially in Summer League, like he flashed some passing that I'm going to be honest, I didn't know he had.
Agreed.
And I had some people let me know, like, okay, well, this is what he sort of put on tape a little bit before this season, like when he played like some international competition. I hadn't seen anything like that from him. Every time when I watched his games, I saw him, those were turnovers, but super fluid. His behind the back is a lot cleaner than I thought he could do as well. Like he pulled off some really nice highlights and even some things that didn't lead to made baskets, but I was very encouraged. I left Summer League feeling a little bit better. And that was also in like the worst possible environment for Risacher. Like if you said, I want to evaluate a player of like Risacher, Summer League is the worst place possible, especially with the situation that the Hawks had at point guard. So I don't want to. I feel like with Summer League, it's like, okay, if this confirms what I thought about this player, then I'm gonna act like it did. But if it doesn't, then I'm gonna just dismiss it. So I don't want to do that. But it's like Summer League, like you said, it's not incredibly consequential. But I think everything he did show that was positive. I think that's something that could translate to the NBA. It's more so like his feel, his touch, his comfortability in the offense. I wanted to see him take risks. Like you said, he has a very humble mindset, but he's been a role player his whole life, honestly. And that's why he has that mindset, which is a good thing. Like, like that's what he needed to do to make it in a professional level. But I wanted to see him be a risk taker. I wanted to see him sort of break out that mold. And that's what I saw from him. So I was definitely encouraged.
Today's show is brought to you by Gametime, and Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. They help you get your baseball tickets, basketball tickets, and anything else you're looking for faster and easier with last-minute deals, all-in prices, featuring receipts, and the lowest possible price guarantee. Gametime is a fantastic option for everything across the board when it comes to ticket purchasing. I've been using the app for a long time now. It's come in handy for me many times with Braves tickets or Falcons tickets, etc., plus shows and concerts across the city of Atlanta and beyond. Save big when buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, and much more. And they have flash deals as well. You can save big there and even save even more when choosing a section and then letting Gametime choose the seats within that section for you. They have an awesome feature as well that really appeals to me, where you can actually toggle to show the total up front. No surprise fees. You get to the checkout screen at the end. Also get a panoramic view of the seats in the app before you buy them, and you are actually getting the lowest possible price with the folks at Gametime. Take all of the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app right now, create an account, and then use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase at Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Yeah, very few guys who are drafted, even top five. I'm not even going to say number one overall, top five, have like the path that he's been on. Like he's always been a top flight prospect. The last 3-4 years, like he's been up there. Like he's been up there at the top of the list. But because of the way that his path has gone, a lot of guys, we'll say in America, you're either going to G League Ignite and you're being one of the main guys there, right? Or you're going to college and you're being one of the main guys there. He was one of the best players on his team in Europe, but he was like firmly in a system. If you, and I know you watched him. People that actually watched full games of him, like he was firmly like not a like number one option kind of guy there. He was within a system as a role player, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just different than what you're looking at. And I made that point about Summer League too. It was such a funny thing. Like Summer League's kind of like about small guards and like on ball players, and like that's the guys that pop there, and he's not that. Although the Hawks wanted him to be aggressive, and that's most guys, they want to be aggressive. They want your top picks, top prospects, but they had to before they even went out to Vegas. They were like trying to say even to us, like we want Zach to be aggressive. We want Zach to be aggressive. Hunt his shot, that kind of stuff. And he showed a little bit. Like he didn't shoot it great in Vegas, but he was looking for his shot, which I was encouraged by. You mentioned the passing because there are a couple of like really eyebrow raising passes that he did have a rep for that at lower levels, like you said. But not like that's not near the top of the scouting report with Risacher. It never was. Like he's a ball mover. He makes the right passes. Like he's not afraid to do that. But he wasn't like creating on the ball. They got some flack for, especially early on before Keaton Wallace got a little more of the on-ball responsibilities. That first game when they were playing through Jurisic and Risacher in the backcourt, it's like this is probably not the best situation to be. Like Jurisic couldn't get the ball. Respect to him, who I do like. He couldn't get the ball like past half court at one point in that game a couple times. It's like, oh, okay, this might be a long night, long week. But no, I like what I saw. And then basically the pitch is, I know people are tired of this, like hearing it from me and other people, but the Hawks pitch is essentially we buy his shooting, we buy his length, we buy his defense, and then we buy his feel overall, which can be a lot of different things, like knowing where to be defensively, passing vision, all those things. And yeah, that doesn't scream number one overall pick. Like we've all said it 100 times, but that guy didn't exist. And it's just the way it is. Like maybe we'll be having a Reed Sheppard argument 5 years from now because Reed Sheppard looked great at Summer League. And I like Reed Sheppard a lot too. And you're shaking your head, but look, undeniably, and maybe you disagree, having Trae Young on your team does have to impact the potential of drafting Reed Sheppard, I feel like. So it's not like there was all I would say is if you had those guys close, your tiebreaker would have probably gone to Risacher on a team that already had Trae Young on it. That's kind of where I would be.
Yeah. I think it's to our benefit that like a lot of the other top draft picks struggled, particularly Alex Sarr. Like, it would have been a lot worse in terms of, I wouldn't have been swayed in terms of the decision, but more so just like in terms of the amount of coverage. It would have been.
Reed was the only one. Yeah, Reed was the only one in the top 5-6 picks that played really well. Castle had one big game, but yeah, Sarr being bad on offense did help. But also, I do think that people that I don't know about you, people that I trust beyond Atlanta, like the national folks that I think are smart, were like, Risacher looked fine at Summer League. Nobody that I saw was like piling on the way that they did with Trae. It's all, of course, the example that everybody uses, but it's true. The Salt Lake City Trae experience, where like everyone was joking about Trae being so bad. That didn't really happen to Risacher. Even maybe, I'm sure on some corners of the internet that happened. People are looking at his shoes or whatever. But the people that I would describe as people that know things, that are like not just like hot take artists, were kind of like, he looks fine. Like, no one was blown away either, which is fair to say out loud. But he also, like, I sat next to some people, I won't name them all, but like I talked to John Hollinger a lot, for instance, like who lives in Atlanta. John was like, looks fine. Like, it wasn't like, he wasn't blown away. He didn't love the draft pick when it happened, but it also wasn't like a confirm. We joked about the confirming our biases, but even the people that were skeptical of Risacher didn't come away like super down on him. It was kind of like he looks the way that we thought he was going to look. So
I will say, like, one thing that I think is going to be a big growth area for him, is something that I thought he'd be a little bit better in. The off-ball defense was at some points like really, really bad, and like very little time to learn the system. The new, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of things that lead to that, but like his awareness, sometimes he would just rotate and he would just completely forget about the guy behind him. He got back cut a bunch, gave us some offensive rebounds. And that's some things that, like, for the most part, he was solid at overseas. There were some games where he definitely wasn't as engaged. But that was something that definitely jumped out to me. Again, like, I don't think it was anything, like, nothing glaring jumped out in terms of like a massive flaw. I do want to touch on Reed, what you just said. I think Reed and Trae is like, it doesn't make sense when you think about it, but with the way that Reed is so productive, and the fact that he's like a really competitive defender, even though, and here's the thing, I think Tyler said it too, but like he was saying, like, I need people to realize how much they're targeting him on defense, like, because he's kind of Trae Young-esque. So it's like, that's why I always understood it. It's like, he's a solid defender. He's a flashy defender in terms of like the blocks he'll pull off or the steals he'll get, but he's absolutely still a liability. So it's like,
right now
as a hypothetical, but like it's not gonna work, you know. So it's like, as much, that's what I'm telling myself right now. You know, if he beats up and he really like commits, then, you know, I think he has the athletic gifts to be a good defender, like a Fred VanVleet or a Mike Conley. Like, he's not gonna be defined by his size as much as guys typically are, like with his frame, because I think he can beef up. But yeah, overall, Summer League was like not an enjoyable experience. I wish
you weren't there. We shouldn't have to sit there all day long. I'm sure that was bad. But it's like, I think the only player that I was like, I enjoyed every moment was like EJ Liddell. So it was like, they turned around and traded him for you. No, I'm with you on Reed, and like I liked Reed in the drafts, but and offensively it would work. I just don't think defensively that was ever him and Trae would ever work. And there was a school of thought that, you know, maybe the Hawks aren't as committed to Trae as people think they might be, and that's for another day. And if that was the case, maybe you just draft the best player available, and maybe it's Reed. And that's, by the way, maybe part of why Reed was the number 2 choice, which I heard repeatedly on the day of. Like, they thought about Reed all the way to the end. Anyway, I wouldn't be there. If it was me, I'm still building around Trae if I'm the Hawks, and I wouldn't have taken – I wouldn't have – honestly, I don't know if I would have taken Risacher either, but it's a reasonable pick to me. It still feels the same way that it did there. I'm actually excited about him. And the way that I put it is, if you remove the number 1 pick of it all, Risacher is a guy that I like a lot of the stuff he does. Like, to your point earlier about the off-ball defense, I trust his off-ball defense within the team concept of a team he's been playing for a year a lot more than I do in summer league off-ball defense. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. I'm not saying you're 100% right. Like, there were some bad moments, but like, I think he feels like a guy to me, and what I've heard is like he'll execute what they want eventually. You know what I mean? He's a 19-year-old rookie. The help side stuff is okay. Like, I think defensively, I don't think he's going to be a game changer at any point, but I do think he's going to be good. And if you're 6'9", and he'll get stronger, that's the one thing that Landry said, and also Zach said on the record, he was like, I gotta get stronger, I gotta get bigger. Yeah, you do, and then we'll see. So ask me again in a year and a half. If he's not stronger, then we'll start to worry a little bit. But no, I liked what I saw there as well. Feel free to add anything else you want to about Risacher. We should at least let's do like a zoom round on everybody else. Anybody else on the young guy side that you'd like to talk about while we're here? I don't want to keep you forever because I gotta, it is what it is.
No, it's all good. I think Don Barlow is like really interesting to me, and I think in general,
me too.
The Hawks have won on the margins. Like they've done exceptionally well,
which is so weird. They never did that for like 3 years.
Never happened before. But I think you put it up, and I think you summed it up perfectly. It's like with that report you had, where it's like he's not a two-way guy. Like they thought that he'd probably get a contract, and in general, like what the Hawks have done, especially with Barlow. What I really like about Barlow is like, and I don't know, it's kind of weird because like typically when you have a tweener, it's like that's an issue. But with the Hawks concept, like in the context of the Hawks roster, like his ability to like play the 4 or moonlight as a 5, he has really good passing skills. He has good instincts around the rim on both ends. He can shoot the ball. It's like he's not like a really stiff big guy. So I mean, I'm really intrigued to see what he can do. I'm still also like kind of confused about what we're going to do with backup 4. I don't think Mo Gueye is ready from what we saw in Summer League either. So I think it's just kind of up in the air. But how do you feel about Barlow?
Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors, and passion, drive, and patience are the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. At eBay Motors, they have everything you're looking for to maintain your vehicle. Really everything you need possible to maintain your vehicle. Level it up as well to peak performance. They have superchargers, they have roof racks, they have exhaust kits, LED headlights, and much more. Whether you're into speed, into power, or into style, they have you covered across the board at eBay Motors, and they have over 122 million parts. That's a lot of parts for your number one ride or die, and you'll always find exactly what you're looking for at eBay Motors. They also have eBay's guaranteed fit, which means your part is guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, but crucially, you are not burning any cash. With all the parts that you need at the prices that you're looking for, it's easy to turn that car or truck or SUV, whatever you have, turn it in to the MVP and bring home that win that you are seeking with eBay Motors. Keep it ride or die alive right now at ebaymotors.com. One more time, the place to go is ebaymotors.com. eBay guaranteed physical and adult U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. I love that signing. And I got some people like, you're way too excited. I'm not saying it's going to change your team on its own. But if you have a two-way slot open at the end of July and you get the player who I think is like maybe the best single guy that was two-way eligible that was available on the market, and you sign that guy, like, why wouldn't you be excited about that? I mean, I don't mean to cite my friend Sam Messini as gospel, because he's not, and he would tell you that, but like, I think he's one of the people that does this the best. And he's now said twice in public, not just to me, but like on public spheres, like he, number one, said that Barlow is one of the 2 best two-ways in the league right now, along with Scottie Pippen Jr. And then he also said if Barlow was in this last draft, he would have had a top 30 grade, which means he's a first-round talent in this draft. And by the way, he's 21 years old. He's draft day eligible now. And it was a weird path. He was in overtime, which maybe is why, honestly, I would love to talk to Don Barlow. I haven't yet. He's not been available to Atlanta media that I'm aware of. I would like to know if that like played any part in him, because I'm sure he had multiple two-way offers. Like he should have had more. And you said it. He should have had minimum offers to me, like very easily. But I want to know why he chose Atlanta. Like, did he like playing it overtime? And do you like the city? Does he see an opportunity? Because there is an opportunity. You mentioned the backup 4 spot is uncertain. Like, I know that no one's excited about DeAndre Hunter playing the 4, but he's going to probably play a little bit of the 4, I think. They got Larry Nance, same thing. Larry Nance is kind of more of a 5 at this point, but could play a little bit of 4. They have bodies. Mo Gueye, you and I agree, Mo Gueye's not ready. And some Hawks fans don't like when I say that. I still like Mo Gueye. Like, I think he's a really talented player. He, like Kobe, basically had like a washout rookie year. He just didn't play. He was hurt and all that stuff. And you can't pencil him in. So if Don Barlow played real minutes in like November, I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't be. I wouldn't be surprised either if he played a lot in the G League and didn't play a lot at all. Like that. But that's okay. That's what two-way guys do. But let's fast forward for a second to February. Let's say they go into the season with this team. They trade Larry Nance in January because he's expiring, whatever. Right. And suddenly Don Barlow is your third center. and like your third power forward, then he's going to be in Atlanta the rest of the season and might play for you. Like you get one injury. I don't know if he's a center like you talked about. It's a good tweener, but he played center for the Spurs last year. He's bigger than Onyeka. Well, at least he's longer than Onyeka. He's not physically bigger, but he's got enough size. And the passing's really interesting. Like I like him a lot. Like I mean, if you get that kind of guy, man, I don't want to say it again, but I can't believe he's available in late July on a two-way. It's a really weird situation where I'm not telling you he's going to be the second coming of anything, but it's a great signing at that bargain basement price, basically.
Yeah, and he didn't play much for like a pretty bad San Antonio team, so I can understand why people would be like, okay, well, is he really going to make a difference? He also didn't play he only played 420 minutes, and then when you look at like the leverage of those minutes, like a lot of those were blowout. You know, he only played 6 minutes that were like high or very high leverage, which is basically like when the score is like,
which is like nothing. Yeah.
So it's like he didn't really play consequential minutes, but I do think it'd be kind of funny if someone came here, you know, a talented young big man came here from overtime elite after one decided not to and chose to go to a different city. But
he sure did.
Hey,
by the way, on that front, I think I've said something. How do I put this? I don't think the Hawks would have drafted Alex Sarr anyway.
Interesting.
Just saying. I'm not saying that's for 100% true. I'm not saying I'm not banging on the table, but and maybe it's spin. I will raise my hand. It might be Hawks spin, but they've been people that I talked to. Like it's not like they had Alex Sarr in his own tier at number one, and they were like, he doesn't want to be here, so we won't take him. I don't know if they were ever in love with Alex Sarr. I think that was kind of a like mock draft thing. Maybe it's spin. I'll acknowledge that.
Wow.
But we're late in the show. I can just say some crazy stuff. I don't think that. I'm not saying okay. I don't know. All I'll say is I don't know if they were going to take him. People are way too confident that the Hawks were going to take him, and the only reason they didn't is because he didn't want to come here. I'm sure that played a part. It's harder to take a guy that doesn't want to be there. That's obviously fair, but I don't think it was ever like we're going to take Alex Sarr for sure. Just saying.
No, it definitely makes sense, and I think he's so far like offensively. I thought like with Trey, you could make that make sense. That like I was like head of the Star Committee. Like I really thought
he just doesn't want to play big man stuff. I mean, it was I'm not rooting against him. I promise not. I have no ill will for Alex Sarr, but it did make me people were like because you know the one thing I was saying before the draft about because I had a number 1-2 by a small margin. Was that he's a work in progress offensively, and he doesn't want to be he doesn't want to be a big on offense. And if you watch Summer League, that was very much on display. Lots of jump shots, lots of floating. He does not like to play big man stuff on offense, right?
Yeah, I mean he's allergic. He's allergic to physicality, and I think he's very much like even when you watch him at OTE, like he's trying to do like fadeaways, and so I thought I was like, okay, well. I can teach you how to be a big man. I can't teach you to make those shots. That was fair. Kind of my thought process.
No, you're right.
But I 100% get it from the Hawks' perspective. It's like, okay, well, this guy has shown if we're going to take a big, we need a real big. Like we don't need another 4 with Jalen Johnson or even Mohamed Gueye. Like we don't need another like tweener. So I get it. And also like just touching on Gueye real quick, I'm curious. I think he kind of has a little bit of that Sarr mentality where he's like, okay, when you see him at the 5, I don't really know if he's a 5. I don't think he is, but at the same time, he's really, and I think you said this as well. Like they don't view him as a 5. So like, what do you think we need to see from him to like prove that he can play meaningful minutes? Because like when I was watching Summer League, I had this down, but like there was a period in I think the second game, like he had a block at the end of the first quarter, and he hit 2 back-to-back threes. Like the flashes are still tantalizing. Like I'm still looking at him like I really think he could be something special, but I think his positioning needs to get better. I think he needs to be a little bit better with half-court creation. Like it can get kind of wild at times, but what do you think? What indicators do you think we need from Mohamed Gueye to prove that he could feasibly be in the rotation, down the line?
Yeah, I think that you're right to say. And people get mad at me, but I'm just telling you what they think. It's not necessarily right. The Hawks have never thought of him as a center. And it's funny, they'll kind of go out of their way to show their hand on that too. Like in Summer League, for instance, they were starting him next to Rob Baker. Even when they had other injuries, they were still starting him next to a center. And yeah, he played a little bit of center during Summer League. Like that did happen. But even in the G League, when he wasn't playing. He wasn't starting at center. When they had every opportunity the Hawks have had to say what they think of Mo Gueye's position, whether to me or to other people or with starting lineups, he's always at the 4. And part of that's that he's not an anchor right now defensively. Like the flashes are you mentioned them. They're crazy. Like that's the thing about Mo Gueye is that it was always a long-term bet on Mo Gueye.
Yep.
There are different kinds of draft picks, especially in the second round. There are like the plug and play guys, like a lot, the 23-year-olds who go in the second round who are fifth-year seniors. And then there's like the real long-term bets. And Mo Gueye is a long-term bet. He wasn't a great college basketball player, but he's 6'11" and he can shoot and he's got natural feel in some ways. But he's got to anchor better defensively. He's got to get stronger. He's got to stop fouling. Offensively, like I like that he's willing to shoot. But he does have kind of the I think he views himself more as a perimeter guy than I think he is on offense. But they like that about him. They like the kind of unicorny thing that he can kind of do there. It's just that he's got to get a lot more seasoning. Like I'm not saying his feel is bad, but he just plays like a young guy. Like he plays like a really raw prospect because he is. I mean, that's Kobe played 2 years of college at a super high level in the Big Ten. And yeah, he got hurt a little bit this year, but played a bunch of the G League. Like he played more than Mo did this year and was already a year ahead probably of Mo anyway. Mo was out. Like when Kobe was out, Kobe had a hand injury. Like he could stay in shape. He was around the team. Mo hurt his back. Mo couldn't do anything. So he lost the season basically. And a guy that is all about development kind of couldn't afford to lose the season and then be productive. So to answer your question, I guess more cleanly, he's got to be safer defensively, number one. Like I don't think they trust him defensively right now, and they probably shouldn't based on what we've seen. It's just more that because they don't think of him as a center anchor defensively, it makes your job harder. But he's better at the 4. If you watch him defensively, like he's better when he's not having to be the guy on the back line because he could be that secondary rim protector, and he's so big. He's so big. Like that's the thing. If you can find a way to channel his length and athleticism, avoid some of the fouls, and just kind of wreak havoc next to a center, like that's kind of probably his ideal role defensively, I think. Or maybe there's a world in 3 years where like Mo hits his 85th percentile outcome and it's him and Jalen in the front court together. And those two guys might, even though Mo's not a center, if you play him next to someone like Jalen who can rebound with him and all that stuff, maybe that would work. But I just think people can take it easy with Mo. Like it's not anything negative, but okay, let's just say you watch Summer League intently. Was he good in Summer League? Because I don't think he was.
No, I don't think he was.
If you're not good in Summer League as a second year big, and look, it's a small sample size. He got hurt too, so whatever. It's like 2.5, 3 games. It's not an indictment, but if you don't look really good in Summer League at that age, and he wasn't a one and done either. He was a multi-year college player. Like I will say, he improved during Summer League. He was bad against Saar in the first game. He was better as they went along, which is encouraging.
And I think when we talk about how young he is, he's only played basketball for 4 years, and that was before he got drafted. So
he's really wrong.
When we talk about like the developmental path, like I even have in my notes from like after the draft, I was like, he's 2 to 3 years from contributing, but he has real talent, and that's still how I feel about him. Yep. But I want to ask you about and just in general, I feel like the Hawks have made a really, and in this new era with Landry Fields and Kyle Korver, they've done a good job of like not just maximizing value, but sort of hedging their bets. So like you go Kobe Bufkin, who's a proven, college level talent, but then you go with a real high upside swing with Mohamed Gueye. Kind of somewhat similar here with Risacher and Jurisic, but and I do want to talk about him a little bit, but I want to ask you about Roddy first because David Roddy is 6'4", he's 250 pounds, he shoots 30% from 3, and Basketball Reference has him a power forward, which is like like Sadiq Bey like callbacks except shorter. And I'm curious, like I feel like there's overlap between him and Seth Lundy, and right now I'd rather have Seth Lundy. So, like, what do you think the rationale behind that trade was? Do you think he has? I think he's maybe just an insurance policy, but it's like I don't remember if it was you who reported, but someone said like they feel like he's a better fit than someone like EJ Liddell.
Yeah, I think Lauren reported that first, and I heard the same. I heard the same thing that she did about Roddy. It's funny because there's a big gap in the position archetype, like between Basketball Reference has him a lot more as the 4. And Cleaning the Glass has them more as a 3 in their tracking. I don't know why that would be. I didn't cover those teams, so I don't know about Memphis and Phoenix. But I think they think of him more as I don't want to say wing. They think of him more as like a wingy forward. And I think of Liddell as more of like a big. And I know they're like kind of the same size in some ways. Liddell is short for a big, but they think of Liddell as more of a big, like a combo 4, even though people get mad at me when I say it. I understand he's not center size. I get it. But they think of him more as a big, and Roddy's more of a wing. And I think, honestly, for me, the Hawks did say that they think that's true. It feels to me like they just think of it as a challenge trade. They just think Roddy's better. That's all it is. I'm not saying they're right, but I think if you do that kind of trade, you can sell it a little bit on position because like I do think Roddy's a little bit more perimeter oriented. Yeah, at the very least. But I think they just think Roddy's better, and they might be wrong. I don't know. But that's kind of the thinking, I think. And I think that, defensively, maybe Roddy's a little bit better on wings than Liddell. Liddell's more of like kind of a sneaky good shot blocker for a guy his size. Maybe a better rebounder. I don't know who's a better shooter. Like Roddy should be a better shooter, but I don't know if he is. It's really, I will say he's got more like ball skills for sure than Liddell. Liddell is more of a play finisher. Always, even in college, was at Ohio State, was a play finisher. I just don't know if Roddy's good. I just don't. Like the ball hasn't gone in for him, is what it comes down to. Like I ask people, it's been like a week now, people in Memphis, people in Phoenix, it's always like, can he make a shot? Because if he can't make a shot, then what are we doing here is kind of what it comes down to. But TBD. Challenge trade for me.
Okay. Yeah. And I want to show Risacher some love too. I think, again, in that same vein of the Hawks just finding value, like you said, with Don Barlow, and then even with getting Dyson Daniels back for DeJounte Murray, I don't think you could do better in that second round at that position. And they gave up money to do it, which is
they
crazy.
did. They moved up, and they actually, it was crazy. I'm with you. No, I think they had like I don't know if Landry ever said this. I did hear it. I think the Hawks kind of had like a late first round grade on Risacher.
Yep.
Not like a lottery grade or anything, but like they thought of him as like a late first round pick. And if that guy's available for you in the 40s, you're obviously going to be really excited about that. And I know he had not a great first game in Summer League and immediately got hurt, and that's brutal. Again, Summer League being brutal this year, but they do like him. TBD on whether it gets stashed or not. Right now, it feels like he's going to be a stash because there's nowhere to put him. But I have gone out of my way. I'll say it again now. It's not 100% that he's stashed. Because of the roster right now, as you'd imagine, people are like, oh, he's definitely going to be stashed. And he probably is going to be. I would say probably. I just have not heard that like he's definitely going to be overseas next year. So until I hear that, I won't. But yeah, it's an upside play. Same thing. It's like it's similar in some ways to what we've talked about with Mo. And it's going to sound weird because like, especially because the Hawks haven't had a stash workout. I don't remember the last time they had a stash workout. Now they haven't tried it in a while. They haven't actually had a stash since like Cordinier, basically. And he was awful, respectfully to him. He was. I mean, no, it was fun. Anyway, I'm showing my age, but the first year they drafted Cordinier in the second round. He looked fine. He went overseas. They stashed him. He came back for his second summer league. I don't know if you're even old enough to remember this, but he was so bad in that second summer league. And I was looking at people on press row like, am I imagining this? Like, what is going on here? Now, to his credit, he's come along. He's still playing pro. He's actually a good player now overseas still. But like, he was like, well, I basically decided right then. I was like, he's never coming over, and he didn't ever come over. But yeah, no, I like Risacher too. I mean, it's the size that he has, the scoring acumen he has, the aggressiveness that they've kind of laughed about, but like he's overly aggressive, if anything. Like he's really like hunting, which is good. And it may not ever come into anything, but I think that in the 40s, the AJ trade's kind of, AJ got traded for Risacher in some ways, but AJ was I don't know about you. AJ felt like a change of scenery guy to me. It had to happen. I still believe in AJ on some level. I don't know if I should, but
yeah. I mean, that hurt me honestly, like really bad. I was like, man, like I've loved AJ honestly, like as a prospect, as a person, as a player. But when you have a new coach, he missed time, injuries, some family stuff, whatever it was, like it was just
all of the above, actually.
Yeah, really, like it was like a lot going on in his life, and a super young guy, and he's just really bad defensively. Like he's unbelievably bad. Like we have a lot of bad defenders on the Hawks, and for you to stand out, you got to be special, and that's why I'm worried about his long-term future in Houston. They've got a ton of wings, and all of them can defend. So is Udoka going to give him that chance if he can't defend? He didn't look good in summer league, and so
no, he didn't.
Yeah,
I wanted him to go somewhere and have a fresh start, and that doesn't always work either. I just felt like it wasn't going to happen in Atlanta. He just needed to get he needed to get out. It's not anybody's fault. It's just it happens sometimes. But the shooting plays. If he can figure anything else out, the shooting will always play. It's just I don't know. But yeah, turning him into, and look, it might look bad. There's a chance, like, if AJ figures it out and jurisdiction never comes over, people are like, what happened here? They traded AJ Griffin for a second round pick, but it's not always about that. I think we've covered mostly everybody quickly anyway. Yeah, I mean, this has been fun. We'll have to do this again because we could go for 3 hours. I feel like we could go for 3 hours. My Locked On overlords would not enjoy a 3-hour podcast, I don't think.
I do want to hit you with a quick question. Like, since the offseason, a deep cut.
Yeah.
Who do you think would play more minutes, Seth Lundy, Muhammad Gueye, or David Roddy?
I wish I had training camp. I will say, I will guess David Roddy. Only because now Seth's the wild card here because
Seth would have been my pick.
He got banged out. He got banged up last year, but they obviously like him. This is the same regime that drafted him, all that stuff. I just think they think of Seth as more of like a 2-3, and there's a lot of guys at that spot. Like, for instance, like they're going to play Garrison Matthews over Seth Lundy. Like they just are. Like Garrison's safer and probably better right now. I'm a big Seth Lundy guy though, so I'll raise my hand on that. But I think because they just traded for Roddy, and because there's just less, I can see Roddy playing backup 4 minutes. You know what I mean? That's I think he has the clearest path, because I think right now, and again, I don't know if David Roddy's good. I'll be the first to admit that. But I think right now, if they played a game on August 4th as we're recording this, and they had to pick someone to play at the backup 4 between Mo and Roddy, they would probably pick Roddy because they just drafted him. Sorry, they just traded for him, and he's already been in the league. He's just not as raw as Mo is. But I'll say this to flip it back on you. If Roddy hasn't played regularly by like February, the answer is going to change to one of the young guys. You know what I mean? Because if Mo gets more seasoning, I think that Mo's going to spend time in the G League this year, and people are not going to like that. But I'm expecting Mo to play in College Park, not exclusively, but I think he'll be there. Seth might be too. I feel bad for Seth. There's just a lot of bodies in front of him, and I hope he gets to play because I'm a huge fan. But yeah, it's an interesting deep cut because I'm not convinced. By the way, I think you probably hear that in my voice. I don't have a firm opinion. I think it's probably going to be Roddy just because he's been in the league before, but I could be totally wrong. I have no idea.
Yeah, I haven't done my due diligence on David Roddy, if I'm going to be honest, but I have preconceived notions of him from like when I watched him. I'm not a big fan. I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm not.
No, it's not been. I did some poking around, and like even in the draft, like it wasn't like he was a lock to go in the first round, and he did, but there was a split on him then. The body type's weird, of course. I don't know. I'm not against David Roddy. I think he's got some ability. It's just that I'm not sold on him by any means. I mean, I think if you ask me who's going to be better in 2 years, he'd probably be last on the list between those 3 guys. But just a lot of uncertainty. And one thing I'll be talking about a lot, I'm sure, in October is like the backup 4 spot, because that's really the only spot on the roster that's like totally uncertain. Like backup point guard, we talked about it earlier with, we think it's Kobe. I think it's Kobe. Trey's going to play a lot of minutes, of course, which makes it easier. But backup 4 could be legitimately a combination of like 4 different guys. Hunter, Nance, Roddy, Mo. That's probably it. But I mean, people are going to say Risacher. Risacher is more of a 2-3 right now, in their opinion. I think there's a non-zero chance that Risacher starts at the 2. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's my wild prediction in early August, is that there is a chance that they start Trey, Risacher, Hunter, Jalen center, and people will be so mad about that if it happens.
Yeah, well, I also, like, not to keep this going like much longer, but I really do want to like know your opinion on this. Like, people are really obsessed with the fact of like a number 1 pick not starting, and there's not precedence for that. Like, I'm not gonna lie and say that like that happens frequently, but Dyson and Bogey are like pretty clearly better options like right now.
Of course. No, that's 100% true.
Where do you like? For the good of the team, it's going to be one of those 2. But I think in terms like for the best chance for Risacher, maybe you start him. I wouldn't start him. That's just where I stand.
No,
I don't think it's a big deal if you don't start him.
You and I agree wholeheartedly on this. That's one of my bits that people laugh about. But I starting lineups are the most overrated thing in the world. They just are. But they do matter politically. Like, players care about this. I'm not saying they don't. They do. And yeah, it would be. I won't say will. It would be strange to not start the number 1 overall pick. But it's happened before. It's been a while, but it's happened before. And I will always say the Hawks are not a traditional number one overall pick team. They had much more returning talent. They were in the play-in last year. They weren't like this bottom feeder team. Mm-hmm. The combination of that, and while we like Risacher, he is not a traditional number one overall pick. So the combination of team that has more talent than usual and a player that is respectfully worse than usual in that spot right now, I think, that combination and just the talent that they have at the position, yeah, he might not start. And the other wrinkle that everybody's going to be really mad about is that DeAndre Hunter's approval rating is not very high these days, and I get that. But DeAndre Hunter has 3 years left on his contract of $20+ million a season. So there's politics in that too. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness.
But you know what I mean? There's politics in that too. So which political factor do you care about more? The guy who's making starter money for 3 more years, or the guy that you have 4 years of team control on plus more in Risacher? Because I think if ideal, and that's why I said what I said a second ago about, like, if you do start him, I think it might be at the 2 in giant quotes.
Yeah. But
you're right that he's the 3rd or 4th best shooting guard on the team right now. And he's probably the 3rd best small forward on the team right now. But it all comes down to what they want to do with Hunter. And that is honestly the 2. Bogey and Dyson will be fine. I'm not worried about it. Bogey not starting won't be a big deal. If they want to start Bogey and not Dyson, that's also fine with me. Don't care at this point in time. But yeah, you can bet that the number one thing I'm asked about between now and October is this exact thing. Yeah. Who's going to start? And I wish I knew, but what I've been saying, and Glenn laughed about it with me last week. I was like, there are 2 guys guaranteed to start on the Hawks. 2. It's Trey and Jalen. That's it. Yep. Now, there are guys that I think are more likely to start than other guys, but there are 2 guys who I would fall on the floor if they didn't start. And that's crazy. Most teams have 3, 4, maybe even 5. Like the Hawks have 2. Because for the first time, and you'll actually like this, for the first time ever, I'm not sure they're going to start Clint. I'm not. They might start Aneka, and that's fine with me, by the way. I'm totally fine with that. But usually, what I would say coming into this season is the first time I'm not sure about Hunter, and I'm not sure about Clint starting. Because Hunter's always been a guaranteed starter. Whether people like that or not, he's always been like written in pen, he's going to start. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that's insightful. And I'd say, like, when it comes to Hunter, like I do like sort of like fall to my knees when I think about the contract, but for what he is, I mean, he's not as bad as it feels, but that's just because of the value that we gave him.
I agree. So yeah, no, I mean, oh man, people got us. I'm not picking on you. At this point, DeAndre Hunter should be totally removed from what they traded for him. They overpaid for him. They drafted him too high. All those things. Mm-hmm. He's just a guy in a contract now, man. It is what it is. Like, it's been too long. But yeah, would it be great in a vacuum? Would it have been great to trade DeAndre Hunter or Clint Capella? Yeah, it would have been, but they didn't.
So you think the door is closed on that?
No, it's not. But the smart money in August is usually that nothing's going to change. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just we're at this point in the offseason where stuff can change. I'm not saying it can't, but like at this point, I would kind of wager that this is the roster for the most part. But we'll see. I know the anti-Capella, anti-Hunter brigade won't be very happy about that, but it is what it is.
I mean, the other thing is, like, on the bright side, they could recoup their value this year. I think they have like a more clear path to being more impactful players. Like we talked about Dyson a little bit with Clint.
Yeah.
Also, I think DeAndre Hunter closed the season exceptionally well. His February, like, there is no one. There's maybe 3 or 4. I think it was like Austin Reeves, James Harden when he was on the Thunder. Like, the amount of production DeAndre Hunter was doing at his efficiency was unbelievable. So it's like I think it's not out of the question to say they rebuild the value in the offseason. I'm not sorry, like by the trade deadline, and then maybe you see a move then. But
Hunter had his best season. I mean, that's not the highest bar, but Hunter had his best season last year in year 5. He was probably better on a per minute basis the second season, but he didn't play very much. He got hurt that year. But last year, combination of like he still missed time, but he took more threes. He got to the line a little bit more. He was more efficient. Like, he was better last year than he's been. It's just that I get it. He's not the most fun player in the world. Anyway, this could be another conversation altogether. I got to get you out of here, but please take a second at the end of this podcast, tell folks where they can find all your stuff, because I am following, other than TikTok, where I'm too old for TikTok. I just can't do it. But my listeners probably are young enough to get on TikTok. So share with people where all your stuff is, because people should be following you for sure.
For sure. Appreciate you, Brad. And yeah, I mean, I'm Dealey for 3, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter. I'm really trying to push my YouTube right now. I feel like Trae Young in particular, like his PR is in the dirt. So I'll be having a video coming out, sort of rebuilding that, and also just sort of examining like where we got to, how we got to this point in his career, where, you know, at this point he's grossly underrated and probably one of the most disrespected players in the NBA. So I'll be doing a deep dive on that. I'll be talking about what I've seen from Dyson and Bogey over the Olympics, like across platforms as well. And then some other like non-Hawk stuff as well. Like I have a lot of other interests outside of just the Hawks, of course. Like I love basketball in general. So I've got a video coming out about KD's decision, maybe like the next versions of Aaron Gordon, all types of stuff. So like if you love basketball, you love the Hawks in particular, like I would love for you to engage in my content. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I'll be working on.
There you go. Check it out for sure. And we will do this again, David. I very much appreciate you being here in the dog days of summer and being flexible, because I changed the time on you. You were very willing to do that. So I appreciate that. As for everybody else, check out David's work, of course, but also check out this podcast, subscribe, like the video on YouTube, all those fun things. And we'll see you all next time.